Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Disney themed video. Today I want to talk about the actual job interview that I did to work in Disneyland Paris. Just because when I was preparing for this experience, there was almost nothing online. I went looking for something and I remember that I couldn't find any information at all. So I just hope to help you guys out with this video. I just wanted to add one more thing. Something may have changed, but in my opinion, the basic things are always the same, so I'll just talk about my experience. And the second thing that I wanted to add is just that I really suggest you guys go watch my first video of this series, just because in that video I really explained to you guys how I got to do the job interview and what I had to do before getting to do the job interview. To sum things up a little bit, I actually saw that there were some castings for Disneyland Paris in Milan on the newspaper, and always on the newspaper there was linked the website where I had to go to upload my CV and send the request for an invitation for the actual job interview. So what I had to do was I had to fill in a form with my name, surname, date of birth, everything like that. And then after 3 days I had an email that told me that I was accepted, so I got sent an invitation to go to the job interview in Milan. Just to give you an idea of the time that I had to wait, I sent my CV on the 3rd of November 2014 and I got the answer on the 6th and they told me that I was accepted and I had an invitation to go to the job interview. And the job interview itself was on the 27th, 28th of November 2014. In the mail that I got, there was a link to subscribe to the event of the job interview, so I had to click on that link. And then there were 2 days, the 27th and the 28th, and you had some groups, like the group of the morning, the group of the afternoon, the group of the late afternoon, and you were actually able to choose in which group you wanted to be. I chose the 27th, and then I chose a group in the afternoon just because I was leaving from Turin to go to Milan and it takes about 2 hours, and I was like, this way if I'm really late or I miss my train, at least I won't be late. And the other thing that they said on the email was to be there 15 minutes before the actual job interview. And the other thing that they asked was to bring 2 copies of your CV in French and also a cover letter in French. So what I immediately did was I translated my CV in French and then I printed 2 copies in French, 2 in English and 2 in Italian, just because you never know. And then I wrote my cover letter, which for those of you who don't know is a letter where you introduce yourself to the enterprise and you briefly tell them who you are, where you worked, and above all why you want to work for this enterprise. And to be honest, I had never written a cover letter before just because in Italy they don't ask for it that much. So for me that was my dream job, so it was absolutely super easy to write that cover letter because I was like, you can even put me to wash windows, I'll be happy, I'll be okay with that because I'll be in the most wonderful place on earth. And my suggestion to you guys is you should put a lot of attention on your CV and most of your attention on your cover letter, because in my case I think that the 60% of my job interview was based on my cover letter. So this was all regarding the materials that you had to bring with you. Then for the following 3 weeks, which were the weeks before the job interview, what I did was I actually restudied all my French. I was pretty confident in my English just because I know that I don't have a perfect English, but if you ask me some questions in English I can answer to you. I have a pretty decent amount of words that I know. I was actually confident for my English, but for French it was totally the opposite because even though I had studied it, I hadn't been speaking it for like 2 years and a half. So I was like, I really need to get the French going. So I had to restart studying French, I had to restart with all grammar, words, and above all I went looking for the words that I knew would have been useful for me. Just like I was imagining my job interview, and if I couldn't build a phrase with that specific word, I was like, I'm gonna look for this word or I'm gonna look for another way to say it in French. So that was all I did for 3 weeks before the job interview. Then the 27th came and I just took my train from Turin to Milan and I was there in like 2 hours and it was 10 a.m. and I had my job interview at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I waited at the train station and then I moved to the building where the actual job interview was, and there was a room where you could sit and talk with the other people that were there for the same reason as you. And another thing that I can tell you guys is talk to the other people because you're all there for the same reason. You all want to travel, you all want to speak other languages, you all have the same passion for experiences abroad, so that's very cute to talk to the other people. Also because it helps you to distress, to not only think about the job interview, not being afraid. And above all, some of the people that you find in there could be the people that you find in Disneyland Paris in 6 months or so. Then came the hour of the job interview and we actually went into another big room and they asked us the ID just because they wanted to be really sure that it was you that got the invitation, because they're very strict on this, of course. And they also gave us this little thing right here, and we were divided in 2 groups, and then they let us go in another room where there were a lot of chairs and also a projector. And it was so cute because on the chair there were these little bags, which I love. There is the writing "Faire rêver, c'est un métier," which is like the motto of the people that work in Disneyland Paris, and I thought that was so cute. And the other side is so funny because it says car ears, and there are the Mickey Mouse ears. And in these bags there were some pamphlets with some infos on Disneyland Paris. And at the moment, the 3 people who were handling all the day of castings introduced themselves, and they were so kind. I really want to underline it, because people, if you're afraid, you really shouldn't be, because it's not like an usual job interview where people are like judging you. They're super kind, funny, they try to answer to as many questions as possible, they try to put you at ease, and they're very good at creating this wonderful atmosphere where you can really feel comfortable and give the best of yourself. And then they started talking about the day, about the job interview. This was a job interview to choose people which were gonna work for boutiques and restaurants. They started talking about the park, how it's structured, how many people working there, what could be the job that we were gonna do, and also they started talking about the philosophy behind all the people that work at Disneyland Paris, because of course they want people who are able to deal with other people all day, every day. So preferably they want people who are kind, who are smiling. It's just an attitude that you have to have, because this is a magic place and they have to preserve this magic. Then they put on a video about Disneyland Paris, and it was so cool, so well made, and it was talking about the park and everything like that, and it had like drones with time lapses all over the park. It was super cool, and it really got us into the atmosphere of working in Disneyland Paris. And the only thing that I'm gonna say is be sure to watch very well that video. Then after the video, of course, they asked us whether we liked it or not, and then they started answering to all our questions, and the questions were like, where am I gonna live, how much am I gonna gain, everything like that, and they answered to as many questions as possible. Then there was my favorite part, because they put us in front of a giant game board with a giant sponge dice, and that's where these came in handy, because these were actually meant to divide us into 2 groups. So they actually chose 2 people who went making the job interview with the woman, 2 people who went making the job interview with the man, and the other of us stayed with the second woman in front of the game board. They divided us into 3 teams and they let us play, and it was such a cute thing, because this way you have to do something else, you won't be thinking all the time about the job interview, and you're like having fun and you're not as afraid as you were before. And this was actually a big chance to show who I was, because I was like in a team with all shy people. When there are people who are more shy than me, I tend to be the one who stands out. So I was the one who rolled the dice, I was the one to answer to the questions. I mean, that's the first chance that you have to show who you really are, because they will notice if you're someone who relates well with other people, if you're someone who takes the reins of the situation. So really try to be yourself, try to do what makes you comfortable. If you're someone who's comfortable in leading other people, do that. And if you're someone who's shy, don't worry, no problem at all. There are plenty of people who are so shy in Disneyland Paris, but they work in there too. And regarding the game, it was super cool to play, because some of the questions were about Disney movies, Disney classics, and some other questions were more general questions, such as how many people visit Disneyland per year. So it was very cool to play. And I was almost forgetting that they also gave us a form to fill in with a name, surname, everything like that, and also where they asked the languages that we spoke, and above all, if you wanted an open-ended contract or a fixed-term contract. Since I was a little bit afraid, because it was my first experience abroad, far away from my home, my family, my friends, I chose a fixed-term contract. Now, what I'm telling you is you should mark what you want, but if I can tell you my experience, it's better if you mark an open-ended contract. This way you'll already have an open-ended contract, and if you don't like it, you can always keep the job and go back home. And that's easier to do than to go from a fixed-term contract to an open-ended contract. But anyway, feel free to do whatever you want. And then the hour came and I was able to sit down and go through the job interview. The only thing that I don't like about these job interviews is the fact that there is always one person of the human resources and 2 candidates. And that's something that I find so penalizing, because it's like if you were at a university exam, and of course there's always going to be one of the 2 people that speaks French better, or one that speaks English better, and there's the other one that has done so many things in the past, and it should be your first experience. So I find it penalizing. But anyway, as I always say, if you have what it takes, you'll make it through. Now please don't panic, but generally the job interview is in French or in English. Above all, if you've marked on the form that you are able to speak those languages, they will ask for you to speak in those languages during the job interview. So my job interview started out in French, because I had marked that I spoke French and English. She asked me like 2 or 3 questions, and I have to say that for the first first 2 questions, I was very worried because I wasn't able to express myself as well as I wanted to, and I really felt that my French wasn't as fluent as I wanted it to be. And I really had a genius idea because I asked her if we could switch to English just because it was my first job interview in French and I was feeling very nervous and very afraid that I wasn't doing well at all. And she was so kind, she wasn't shocked at all from my request. So for the following like 3 or 4 questions, we kept on speaking English, and this was so useful to me. And then suddenly she asked me something in French, and so I started speaking French. And it was so cool because at that point I wasn't nervous at all, so I was able to express myself better than I was before at the beginning of the job interview. So my job interview was like 2 questions in French, 3 or 4 questions in English, and then all the others were in French. And the questions, I have to say that they are the most basic questions that you could ever get at a job interview. So who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? What was your last job experience? Why did you quit it? What did you like the most about it? What languages can you speak? Have you ever been abroad? Have you ever been to Disneyland even? And then there were some more specific questions, which were the questions to understand whether or not you were able to work in a place such as Disneyland. So like, can you handle being in a crowd of people? How well do you relate with other people? Can you talk and help people if they're looking for something in your boutique? Do you like working with an equipe? And then there was one question which, guys, I get asked this one at every single job interview if I have to work in a boutique, which was if there's a lady who comes looking for help because she wants to buy a gift for a nephew that she doesn't see all the time and she doesn't know that well, what would you suggest buying? And that's a very interesting question because you can experiment with different answers. So yeah, as far as question, it was a very normal job interview, and that was it for the actual job interview itself. But before letting me go, the lady actually asked me why I had not marked the open-ended contract, and to be honest, I took that as a very good sign. But I just told her that it was my first experience abroad, so that I wanted to try how it was to live without my family, without my friends, far from home, and then I would have decided if I wanted to have an open-ended contract. And the other thing that got me super excited was that she told me that if I had passed the job interview, I couldn't have kept my hair as I had it because I had it like purple and blue. And like there I was super excited because I was like, she's telling me that maybe I could have passed this interview. So yeah, this was everything for the job interview. To give you an idea of what timing you should expect from it, it was on the 27th of November, and on the 4th of December I got the answer with Mickey Mouse congratulating me because I had passed the job interview, and I was so happy! Literally back then it was one of the best days of my life. And then I got my first contract on the 15th of April, and my contract actually started the 9th of May. So just to let you know that it takes a little bit of time to get into Disneyland Paris because when you pass the job interview, they're like in their talent pool, which is the group of people that made it through the job interview, and when they need someone, they just pick a person from this group. So yeah, it took a little while, but I made it to Disneyland. So this was everything regarding my actual job interview for Disneyland Paris. So if you like this video, please leave it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. This way you won't miss the next videos about Disney. And also, if you have some questions, leave them in the comments down below because I would really be curious to see what they are. And this way I can answer to them in the next videos. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Above all on Instagram because I post a lot of pics of Disneyland Paris. This way you just get into the atmosphere of Disneyland. So yeah, this was everything for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye!